On our next episode of Diagnostic Guru, we are speaking to Dr. Dina Greene. An interesting fact is Dina and I actually recently met at a conference, the Point of Care Diagnostics, in San Diego earlier this year. Dina actually asked a really great question in my platform talk, and I immediately walked up to her afterwards and introduced myself. Now, here we are several months later, and since then, I've learned a lot about Dina's background and was fascinated by her positive energy in fighting for gender inclusion in laboratory medicine. But that's not all that Dina does. She's also a full professor at University of Washington and the founder of her own consulting company, Evergreen Labs, focused on innovative solutions for common problems in the clinical laboratory. Dina also gives her time to advocacy and serves on several committees in our industry, such as ADLM and CAP, which are very well known, as well as an associate editor and editor on several prestigious journals, and has published over 140 scientific papers. So Dina, welcome to Diagnostic Guru today. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Leslie. So excited to be here. I definitely was very fangirled you immediately when you were on the panel before I asked that question. So I'm glad that we had a mutual adoration there and that we've now kind of started to collaborate.
Yeah, me too. I felt like there was like this little bit of a love lost thing going across the crowd. So I
Like,
don't know.
how have we not met
Yeah,
before?
exactly. You're like, I say you're my doppelganger in chemistry versus molecular, right? Like we have
Yes.
very similar backgrounds and paths. So I'm excited to talk more about yours, though. So let's dig into the questions. The first question I ask all my guests, and I find it really interesting as women, is we're always shamed not to celebrate our successes. But if you could choose, what's the most proud, achievement in your career to this date?
Yeah, I get asked this question in interviews, like if I'm interviewing for another job or if I'm interviewing for something, and it's hands down, it is mentoring other women. It is like I didn't have children myself, and so there is this like sweet spot of age with folks that I tend to work with between like maybe like 29 and 35, and definitely older than that as well, but like that 29 to 35-year-old that really get to like influence their career at that like pivotal moment of like really learning about your confidence as a female, as a person, really starting to understand a lot of ways how your demographic at that point might interfere with your career success, and being able to take those women and like foster them and build their confidence and just give them a role model. Like, I hate to call myself that, but to give them a mentor, to give them somebody that has influenced their career in a way that just like unconditionally supports and is like in their corner. And that is, it is like having and then it is like kind of like giving this child to the world that's like,
Yeah.
oh, I help them walk. Like, and
Yeah.
there's just, it's so satisfying. There's nothing better than being able to watch the women that I have mentored succeed.
That's incredible. I mean, I can see it on your face and I can
I
feel
know.
it like through the camera, how much that means to you, especially for us women coming up in the STEAMs or in sciences in general. It's really hard to find other women who are willing to be there for us, right? And mentor and stuff. So the fact that you're able to get to some of these young girls at the early stage in their career is really incredible. I love hearing that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, let's talk more about you.
Mhm.
We already spoke about how you're my doppelganger of chemistry versus molecular. And I say, I've been learning chemistry the past few years. I'm actually now certified, to be a lab director in it.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Why, thank you. Um, what was it that really made you fall in love with chemistry and how has it evolved over time?
Yeah, chemistry was like the first subject that really like stabbed me. It was like the first one that was like, you don't know what you're doing. Like you don't got this science thing.
Yeah.
And I struggled with the basic chemistries. But I was determined. There was something about it that I was like, just keep doing it. And then I got into the higher level classes that were more like biochemistry and microbiology. And as soon as I started studying like cellular physiology and metabolism, I was done. I was
Uh,
like, I get this. Like, I was there was this coffee shop I used to study in when I was an undergrad. Actually, it was a pizza place that had a coffee little bar in it. And like I would just sit in the corner and read my book. I remember the guy that I had the crush on at the time like came over and looked and was like looked at the cover of my books and he was like, jeans, hey. He's like, I like fashion. And I was like, and I just was like, I don't know, just like just staying with my, but so I mean that I was
Yeah.
just so everything was about like getting to understand like we learn how like DNA replicates like 500
Yeah.
times. Like every time I learned I was like, oh, something new, this is so cool, and like I would like get it a little bit more. And it just there's something so satisfying about understanding how physiology works and
Hmm.
how the organ systems then to take that into the organ systems all work together in order to make a human being.
Yeah.
Like there's never, I can never learn too much.
Yeah.
It's so yeah, that's kind of where it started and then it's continued.
Well, it's interesting. There's a couple of things you brought to mind when I was listening to you. One is people don't realize like chemistry is really a lot of the foundational sciences, right? I mean, that's what molecular came out of it. I mean, think about it. The inventor of PCR was actually a chemist, wasn't a molecular biologist, right? And so I think it's important for people to get that, but also just your drive to like continue even though it was a challenge for you. And most people would shut that door and like try something else and take the easy road and maybe party at night or something, right?
I mean, I think that's, that was the key though, right?
Yeah.
Because everything is like that. And I mean, some things come more naturally,
Yeah.
but like having that, like, it wasn't necessarily rejection because at that point it was just like I just wasn't that good at it. But like being able to like take rejection or take criticism or take not being good at something and then finding the ways to like improve and watch myself improve is pretty much all of science all the time.
That's so cool.
So it's I think there's part of that is part of why I love science
Yeah.
because you have to be like, wait, I don't know how that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
And oh, wait, no, that was a bad idea. Oh, no, that didn't work either. And then develop it and it's like ultimately like you learn to trust that intuition. You learn to trust that like, oh, wait, this is an important question.
Hmm.
That's there's no answer to this. And then also trusting that if I spend 40 or 50 hours working on something, that needs to be published.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
I mean, like if that is like nobody's done that before, if it's not already out there, if I have to spend that much time working on something, there is
Yeah.
something for the world to know. There is something for somebody else to gain that then they don't have to spend 40 or 50 hours on.
No, that's a great concept. That's what I love that about science too, is that the unknown and figuring it out, right? And there's multiple failures until you get a success, and it's okay to fail. It's all
Yeah,
part of the
totally.
journey, right? I too
Yep.
struggled in science, but and some of my classes, but I was just so fascinated about it. My big fascination was reproduction. Like I just couldn't get over the fact that we started from one cell, then two cell, then three cell, and how perfect and aligned it had to be for us to have, like all of our chromosomes and everything.
I mean,
So
it still blows my mind when it's
yeah,
still, I'm like, still, how does anybody get born?
I
Like,
don't,
this
I
is,
don't even
yeah.
know. Well, you mentioned it, and I really want to talk about it because I know it's your primary passion is really about this gender inclusive laboratory medicine. It's really fascinating to myself and others on my team. We want to learn more about it from you. So I think it's also an interesting topic with all that's going on with our new president and the grants and all of that. So tell us how you got into this work and what were some of the challenges that you've encountered along the way?
Yeah, I got into this work in about 2014. I identify as a member of the LGBTQ kind of umbrella, and so
Mhm.
I was approached by colleagues that just wanted to know more, and they wanted to understand a little bit more about gender. They wanted to understand about how more that like interacts with the clinical lab, and I was like, huh, I know trans people. I kind of understand gender. Maybe I could do something. And so
Yeah.
I submitted a proposal for the 2014, at the time, AACC annual meeting. It was rejected. But I went forward and I kept pushing. And basically, what it comes down to is so we are taught and I mean I was socialized in the 80s and 90s. I grew up in Florida. It was it's not like I wasn't like some like Northern California hippie, or whatever. Anyways, I lived a very kind of,
Tradition.
more, yeah, traditional. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I was raised thinking that like sex and gender are synonyms, and it a lot of things kind of intersected at once for me. I didn't quite actually realize any type of like sexism that was happening to me until I finished fellowship. I think
Mm,
until that point, I was just kind of plowing through. And then at that point, I started to realize, oh, wait, like I'm not being picked for these things because I don't look like that person, or
wow.
because because I have a higher pitch voice, because I laugh more, because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are these subtleties that happen that I was like just starting to realize like, oh, this is an elephant in the room. So that was intersecting with me starting to think about gender as a component
Mm,
of medicine. And so what I was starting to realize with myself was that, oh wait, my gender actually, and this is today, it influences every interaction that I have. It influences when I go to the grocery store, it influences when I go to the doctor. Just influences both ways that I am privileged and ways that I am less privileged. Okay, so everybody has a sex, everybody has a gender. Sex is defined usually by the genitalia at birth. And then gender is these like social characteristics and psychosocial characteristics and the interaction with the world and how people behave when they perceive you as masculine or feminine.
mhm.
So both of these things interact when we go to the doctor. A doctor will look at you with heart attack. If you're a feminine person, they will take you less seriously. They're less likely to send you to the cath lab. They're less likely to have you get that second troponin measurement. They're less likely to be like, you have a heart attack that I could actually fix. But more masculine people are treated much differently. We have good data to show things like that. But then sex is also going to affect how you're treated, right? You don't give oral contraception to somebody with testes at this point. And so with lab medicine, it was really thinking about, okay, what tests are influenced by sex? So HCG for pregnancy, PSA, hormone measurements, hemoglobin, and hematocrit. And then if people are taking gender affirming hormones, how then does that influence their lab results? So there's actually a very small set of tests that are actually influenced by sex. But the whole aspect of gender coming in, then it gives an opening of being able to communicate to my colleagues that gender is an aspect of our lives.
People are not comfortable with this conversation.
I think people are comfortable with me, right? Like,
Well,
and that's part of what I do so well is that
okay.
I'm relatable.
Yes.
And so when I'm not asking for money, I'm
Yeah.
not asking for anything but for people to listen to me so they can be better people.
Yeah.
A lot of times people want to listen,
Oh,
right? And
wow.
so when people ask me kind of like what my superpower is, I'm like being relatable.
Love that. You already got
Being
to my last
relatable.
question.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay, but relatable
But
is perfect.
yeah, it's and so that is there is, and when people can connect with that and people know that like you're there just as a genuine advocate,
Yeah.
they're really a lot more prone to accept. And of course, I had my street cred built up, right? I have 140 papers about 30 of them are gender
Wow.
related. That means 110 are other things
Yeah.
that people are like, she gets it. She writes great papers. They basically read themselves. I've been able to use them for inspections. I've been able to use them to develop methods. So maybe I should listen to her because, I know that my friend has a trans kid, or I know that kid at church looks like they might be, going through something. Or I have a kid I have so many people that will come up to me and disclose to me their relationship with trans people.
Wow.
And I think that's so great. And I also have colleagues that will come up to me and say, I have a really stupid question. And I'm like, come on, give it to me. And then they ask something like so profound that's like, like nobody knows the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And so, that's, I mean, I would say, I don't know how it's impacted me yeah, am I scared to send my CV out right now because 30 of those papers have transgender stuff related? Yeah, sometimes. But do I
Yeah,
do it? But it's my CV.
but
No,
do you
I don't know.
want that job anyways? If they turn you down, then they don't want your authentic self. So what's the point, you know?
That is the way. But when I'm worried about whether or not they're going to pay my mortgage in a couple months, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It like starts to be like, oh, did I make the
I
wrong
hear you.
decision by living authentically? And
Yeah.
the answer to that is no. It's always no. Authentic living is the way to go. But it's there. The fear is there. It's like I didn't realize my sexism was happening until my early 30s or so. And maybe
Yeah.
when I'm 60, I'll be able to look back and be like, "Oh, that was how your work on that kind of affected you." But would I want to be born male so I didn't experience? Absolutely not. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not the
Not the answer.
yeah, it's our oppression. Part of the other thing is like recognizing where I have privilege and where I don't. And
Yes.
those things always exist at once. And so anytime I start to go down the fact of like, oh, this, then I go back to the part, well, wait a minute. How are the parts where am I privileged? And how can I remind myself that, that these things always are an interplay, no matter what your sex, no matter what your gender, everybody has ways that they are privileged and oppressed. And the more that we can kind of work with those and understand that when those oppressed things get brought up, that we may behave a little badly, but it's just a part of like coming back and like being able to balance those things.
Well, I think it's good that you have that check and balances because you don't want to get overconfident in a situation like that. And it's baby steps, right? Because then sometimes you can make it worse and you put yourself farther back. It's better to be on an even plane than, right, than putting
A
yourself farther back
hundred
from the progress.
percent.
Yeah.
100%. And I mean, particularly, I didn't start out doing work on race, but many of the junior people that I mentor have want to do work on racial equity in medicine. And so
Yeah.
I have
Oh, that's
mentored them
huge.
and I have, and it is, I continue to learn. I mean, gender and race are different. These things are different and the way
Oh,
that they influence medicine are different. And so it is, yeah, it's really being able to be humbled and be able to say, oh, wow, I can't believe I used to speak that way. And then I get up on stage and I'm like, you know what I used to say? Like, and
yeah.
that's again, it's that relatable part and it's that being
Yeah.
humble and it's knowing that my humility can help somebody else change their behaviors.
Well, I think that's definitely your superpower because from day one when I met you, I find you very infectious. Like I'm such an introvert, and you're just like full, you're just so passionate and full of what you do. And so,
Also an introvert, just a passionate one that's not shy. But I
okay.
spend I
I'm
spend
a
more time
shy introvert.
alone than anybody else I promise. Happily.
When you fill out your requisition form, to this date, most rec forms still just say male, female. They
Mhm.
don't, I mean, we're starting to get there with race and ethnicity based on genetics, right?
Mhm.
Which a lot of times people don't want to put it in. And for me as a geneticist, a lot of times I'm like, I don't know how to report this out if I don't know your race, right?
Mhm.
But from a gender standpoint, when do you think we're going to get there and get more descriptive on our requisition forms for testing?
Not yet. Not anytime soon.
Yeah.
I think that we are regressing at this point, in a way that it's and then it comes back to is like when do we need this? When do we need the
Yes.
information? I think that, and it just depends on how somebody presents. Is somebody a trans person that's been living their life as their affirmed gender for many years? So you have a very masculine presenting person. You would never ever think that that person doesn't have a phallus genitalia or something, that
Yeah.
so if they walk up to a test requisition and turn in their thing and it's checked female, like the lab assistant is gonna and so they, as long as their ID and stuff says male, they check that and it goes in. But there's very state dependent rules on who gets to change their IDs and other things, and it's a mess. It's a
Big.
mess,
It's bigger
and
than,
so.
yeah.
Mhm. And that's like the most, because that's one of those parts where you're just like, people, their gender identity is just blatantly disrespected. And that is like,
Yes.
I think that more than having a reference interval that's wrong, like I think trans people understand, like, yeah, you may not have all the like medical knowledge, but could you just respect me?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
could you just
Yeah.
and that is, it'd be like if you got married and your physician just was determined to only use your maiden name, or you got divorced and your physician was only was determined to use your name that you had before
Mary.
you decided to
Yeah.
go back. Yeah. But sorry, I've never been married. I don't know the correct terminology for that stuff.
No, but still, I mean, think
So
about that.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
and so it's a very yeah, it's and that's also part of what I try and get through with my communications. But it's yeah, it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon with what's happening
Yeah.
right now.
Well, let's talk about your professorship, full professorship, which is congratulations. I
Thank
mean,
you.
it's not easy to do. I remember when I was in grad school, I was told, this is your path, this is what you're doing. And I saw what happened to my PI, and I was like, no, I think I'll go into industry. But what's interesting, a story I want to share with you is my PI was a woman, and they had major gender inequality as it perceived to pay at the time. I
Mm.
think the female professors were 30% at least less than the males. And so she had this whole advocacy, and she built this whole organization and group around it. So I'm sure those are some of the things you've experienced in the academic world being a female. And you talked a little bit about being passed up, right, for some roles. So why don't you talk about some of these successes, but also, maybe some of the non-successes of being a female leader in the academic world?
I mean, I don't see myself as a female leader in the academic world. I see myself as having gotten to full professor by really working hard, by doing what comes naturally to me. But I have an unpaid academic appointment.
Wow. How's that
I was
possible?
told in my academic department, I was told that I did not fit in with the culture. And if I showed you a picture of the culture, you would be like, you're right, she doesn't really fit in. I mean, I was told that multiple times. I was told I was threatening by the vice chair of the department at the time, who was a 6'3", thin, 58-year-old white man that had gotten NIH grants since he was probably 19,
Oh
being just
my
like
God.
and told I was wearing these glitter glasses at the time and I knit all the time and I was like, what? I was like, is it my knitting? Is it my glitter? Like, what is threatening? Like, what is threatening? I don't understand how I could be threatening to you.
Yeah.
And how does that help make me a better faculty member?
Yes.
Like,
To fit a
and
mold.
so it is the ways that the system propagates itself is, and people be like, really? You're in Washington? And I'm like, I mean, some of the most progressive academic departments, I think, are in better states because people feel like they have to make up for that.
Yeah.
And other times people are like, well, my state seems to be more progressive. And also the statistics are the statistics. That is the part. It's like I can look around at the other females and be like, only one of us is going to make it, and you're more conventional than I am.
Wow. That's so sad.
It's so sad. And I have behaved very badly as a result of it. I don't want to say that I mean, like, that's where I think like some of these things, but it's like when you see yourself being told that you don't fit in with the culture and nobody's
Yeah.
actually helping you, and you see like another woman in the department that's like, just, married with kids and doesn't, that's
Yeah.
working and they're getting treated in this other way. And it's just
It's
very
frustrating.
hard. It's very hard to swallow. And so, while I think that I am a very good academic, and I think that I know how to write papers and mentor trainees and develop projects and ask questions, I think that I have not been a leader and a successful person in academics.
So with that, what is your one piece of advice you would give to women in science who are looking to step into
Know who is in your corner.
it?
Know who is in your corner and love those people.
Yeah. Trust them, right?
And
Respect.
trust them. Yeah. And when somebody shows you that they're not in your corner, believe them.
Yeah.
Hmm. Believe them and turn right back to those people that are there.
That's so true. I mean, it's hard to find those people. Once you do, I never want to let them go. I'm so sad when I move on to another job. I'm like, please come with me.
They're still there. They're
I
still
know.
there.
Oh, I
They are
know.
still there. That's
Yeah.
my corner is filled with people from all the different places.
Yeah.
And I am so infinite and I use them. There is, it is not every day that I get to smile and be happy and be on a podcast, right? There is a lot of feelings that happen all the time, a lot of rejection, a lot of fear, a lot of yeah, humility and all of this stuff, it's the people in my corner that hold it for me every time. So
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I say hi to all those people out there because they've definitely supported an amazing person.
thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome. So, all right, what's your one good, your one bad, and your one ugly from your career to date?
Oof, the good. This career I've developed, this freaking life that I've gotten to live, it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so good. It's so good. The bad, I wish we could just experience the privilege and not have to experience the marginalization. But I would say the marginalization is definitely kind of the bad part, is having to like, just still be here in this unjust like type of system. And that does bleed over into the ugly. But I would just say beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Like anything that is ugly probably has a silver lining to it. And I just haven't been imaginative enough to figure that out yet.
Well, listen, it's been such a joy talking to you today. You really brightened my day. I can't thank you enough for coming on and all that you do and keep it up. I'm excited for the audience to hear about your background and learn more about, gender testing in the lab and get the reach out there. People need to be thinking about these types of things.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Leslie. I'm glad that I got to contribute. It's really, really nice to be with you.